I promised the last panel, and we will be talking today with my friends and esteemed experts about the importance of diversity and ESG in the tech scene at large. And before we start, let me give you some insights on why I personally think that diversity is very important. First of all, I just want to make sure that we all know that diversity is not only a nice thing to have, but there is actually a clear ROI behind it. So studies clearly show that there is a significant correlation between diverse founding teams and financial success. And that's why there is no surprise that the world's most successful companies, half of Fortune 500, have been founded by underrepresented migrant founders, such as PayPal, Qualcomm, NVIDIA, or Apple. And still, only a fraction of the VC money goes into these founders. Only 1% of European venture capital goes into women. And the number going into migrant founders is equally low, even though also in Europe, 60% of unicorns have been founded by at least one migrant founder or woman. Having said that, I would love to welcome our esteemed panel, and I would like to start with Doerte. Doerte, we know each other since McKinsey times, and you stayed a bit longer than me, made junior partner, and then basically joined Rocket Internet and a few other scale-ups. You are now the founder and general partner of Climentum, which is a VC fund based in Copenhagen, Berlin, and Stockholm, and you are focusing on climate tech. Gesa, we know each other also for a very long time, so this is almost a panel of friends for me, which makes it even nicer. You are the general partner at Auxxo Female Catalyst Fund, and your fund is co-investing exclusively in strong female founders in the pre-seed and seed stage, and previously also male, but at least one female founder, right? That's important to underline. And your background is also in the tech scene, having done various roles at scale-ups. Christian, we actually just met, so great meeting you. You are the founder of our portfolio company, Filu, which is a tech-enabled veterinary chain that you co-founded around 2 years ago. And a fun fact, which I think is very impressive, is that you today have 70% of your employees that are female, which is amazing. Next is Franzi. We met actually at the Minister for Education of Germany when we were invited to discuss female entrepreneurship. And for me, you are one of these role model founders, female founders in Germany. You co-founded Edurino, which is a gamified preschool edtech company based out of Munich. And since we, as DN, invested in your company, you scaled to almost 100 full-time employees, and thereof 40%, i.e. 40 nations. And last but not least, my co-founder at Two Hearts, which is Europe's leading angel community and hub for people with immigration backgrounds, Iskender Dirik. You also recently founded your own early-stage VC, Delene Ventures, and prior to that held various roles at Microsoft, Samsung, and are an angel investor yourself. I am very happy to welcome you all here, and I would like to start with you, Gesa. How have you seen diverse teams outperform homogeneous ones in your experience? Also when backing, not exclusive, but also women-founded companies?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't think you need my experience, but you just named the the studies that show that diverse teams actually outperform. And my experience is very limited because I started investing in 2019, but we didn't have a focus on female founders originally. So what I can say is that I think diverse teams from our portfolio really bring really good traction. And one example, there's a robotics company in our portfolio, and the male founder, when we invested, was already talking about the next round, and he was like saying, we should focus completely on getting the first robot that they had on the market and scaling it as much as possible and bringing as many customers as possible on board. The female founder, she said, yes, that's important, but the market really wants a two-legged robot. So we should also definitely focus on the two-legged robot at the same time. And they discussed for a very long time, and at the end they decided to meet in the middle. So they deployed resources for the two-legged robot, and they deployed resources for scaling the first use case. And at the end of the day, this seems like a very good decision that they made, because now they have good traction, and the investors actually were really impressed by the two-legged robot that didn't have the traction. So that's just one example. But another example, and maybe also mentioning us as a fund, when we started investing, there were no female investors out there, a handful, let's say. And we were looking at deals in a very, very different way than the typical male investors. And one deal, which is the one that made our angel portfolio, now we have, this is a 2019 vintage, we have over 3x DPI, which is pretty good. And one of those deals, and the one that brought us to this 3x DPI, went and pitched with all VCs. Everyone declined them. And it's an all-male team, by the way. And we found something in them, and it's a very complex business model. So we helped them adjust their pitch to what we knew that the the male VCs want to hear and want to see from these founders. And then I did a lot of sales basically for them. So I talked to all the VCs, and at the end they were. Cherry Ventures led the round together with us, and after that, the next round, HV Capital, and now the recent round I cannot disclose, but also a very, very, very impressive investor from the US. So I think diversity of thought is so important, because we just brought a different view to this investment than the typical male VCs at the time.
Super insightful, and in the end, it boils down to the fact that you need a balance. It's not, the solution is not to have only male investors or only female investors. It's about the balance, and it's about communicating with each other and making sure that diverse view of perspectives is being seen, just as diverse as our societies are and the needs of our clients and consumers. And this brings me to our portfolio founders. What would you say? As we heard, you have a high female share and a very, very international team. What are, from your point of view, some effective strategies for increasing diversity in hiring and retention, as there are some funds and operators and founders sitting here that might want to learn?
Right, I'm gonna start. I would say we have it both. So we are two female founders. We have an extremely diverse team in terms of backgrounds, in terms of gender. And why we have that, as simple as is, we are a gaming company. So we were dependent on having a wide variety of team members at the very beginning. And we are an educational company, so education made a difference for many team members. So we have team members from all over the world, and education made it possible. They could study in the best universities in the US, for example, so education changed their life. That's why they have such a passion for our product. And that is so crucial at the very beginning when we tried getting the best talent on board, having that pitch and understanding like, listen, education made a difference for you. We are changing education completely through gaming. So let's get on board and let's change education with us. So I would say for us, it's the product per se. And then we didn't really frame it. And we never said like we want to hire. We don't want to hire a diverse team. It just naturally came, honestly. We just hired the best talent, and we ended up with that many nations, ages, with everyone. What we did, indeed, I mean, I worked for consultancy before as well, for Boston Consulting Group, and what I wanted for my own company is as much flexibility as possible, because it's not only about female, but you can, for example, have a family member at home that you need to take care of. Life happens, right? So you want to give flexibility. And also, from a company perspective, I want to get the talent on board with a growth mindset. So I need to depend on having the people on board, striving growth, being really independent, making independent decisions. So quite naturally, we end up with people who are responsible and for whatever they do. So you end up with people taking on responsibility, and we as a company give them flexibility to work however they want to work. And then you end up with a high female share, because still taking care of the family, for example. So I think it's a lot of consequence. And then you can also push it. So for example, we do have in our people team, our hiring team consists of someone with a psychological background. So you understand biases, for example, if you hire. So there are some processes and strategies you can adapt as well.
Christian?
Yeah, I think the best strategy is to have none, because it's in your DNA of your startup and of your founding team. And I think it starts with yourself, because like founding a company comes with a lot of pressure. It comes with a lot of, things you don't know about, and you tend then somehow, I would say, always to accomplish and take the people also which make you feel better. And this tends to be also, I think, a bias that you get the people who just are yes-sayers, who support you, and there's literally always the people who are like you and not like dislike you. And I think like when we started a company, and also due to Auxxo, we really quickly took coaching, and we really learned how what self-reflection really means. It's what really knowing in your founding team what are your core strengths and core weaknesses. And you quickly realize that there are also a lot of capabilities which even we are 3 co-founders, we don't have in the company. And if you're really self-reflective and you really want to build a company, I think you should always look out for people who make you better, who diversify your opinion, who give you better views, diverse views. It's not about the one way, it's about finding different solutions to a problem. And so I think this was really naturally for us in the founding team from the beginning. And also, Justus and I, when we had the idea for Filu, like we talked to the first female veterinarians, and they said to us, you're just the next 2 business guys who want to make money within our industry. And that got us thinking, okay, alone and as 2 male founders, we cannot manage in this industry, especially when we are 90% female, right, in this market. And yeah, so I think it starts with yourself, with self-reflecting, looking for other opinions, not always thinking you are you have the right perspective, but then also transforming that into the founder team. And if you have that, and if this is your DNA, then I would say it comes naturally, because you're not looking for always the same people who just agree with you. You're looking for diversity and for people who make you stronger.
Super insightful. Thanks so much. And I hope that some of you in this room also got some inspiration, let's put it that way, because I do think that the argumentation around there are no women, there are no people of color that I can hire, there are no diverse backgrounds, this is over. There is always a way. And if you want, you can find a way. And I think we now heard great ways of starting with yourself, your mindset, and then setting up some practices and approaches to get there. And Iskender, I know you have done various roles, operator, founder, you're an investor. How would you say does diversity contribute also to better decision making at businesses, but also in your investments, and also in terms of risk management? I mean, we got some insights. That would be great to learn.
Sure. So, I mean, there are dozens and dozens of, okay, that sounded like Trump, dozens and dozens of studies out there that prove the impact of diverse teams and on the returns of venture firms. But you used an important word, de-risking. And I think for me, de-risking is crucial as an investor as well as an entrepreneur. And everyone looks different at a case. And the more diverse your team is, in terms of age, opinion, personality, gender, whatever, culture, the more risks you will find. When when different persons look at the same case, they will have different perspectives on the case and find different risks. And only if de-risking means knowing the risks. And only if you know the risks, you can make conscious decisions to take the risk or not take the risk, and how to mitigate the risk if you take the risk. And thus, diverse perspectives are super important to identify risks. And there is this study conducted by Harvard, Stanford, and a couple of other universities that studied or showed what are the main return drivers of venture funds. There are three main return drivers, which are sourcing, which are selecting the right companies after you source them, and supporting them as a fund. So what do you think is clearly the biggest revenue driver, return driver? Sourcing, selecting, or supporting? What do you think? Selecting? Yeah, it was roughly 50% selecting, 23% sourcing, and roughly 27% supporting. So it's all about selecting the right companies. And selecting the right companies is, for me, about having diverse perspectives on it, on their risks, and then making conscious decisions again. Perhaps wrapping it up with a recent story from my investor life. So I have an investment committee with 3 people beside me that can't be more different from each other in terms of age, opinion, perspective, upbringing, experience. Super, super diverse and different from each other. When we look at cases, everyone finds different risks. And we had recently a founder who presented in front of our IC. And after the IC, we had our debrief, and 2 of my IC members were like, wow, what a great founder. And the founder, he was the CEO, he was alone in the call, and he presented his co-founder team, his CTO and his COO. But then one of my IC members, he was like, something is wrong. He's smelling it. And that one person has a very different upbringing, cultural background. He grew up in an environment in another country that was very tough. He became an entrepreneur in one of the toughest entrepreneurial hubs in the world. So he became very skeptical about people. And he developed a sense about people, and intuition. And he himself is saying that he became paranoid about people. And he was like, something is wrong with this team. And I was like, you haven't seen the team, you just saw the CEO. But I'm smelling it, and I'm a very analytical person. I hate it when I can't understand root causes. I was like, please explain. And he's like, I can't explain, it's just my intuition, based on his upbringing, on his experience, on his diversity. So I decided to investigate further, because in many cases like this, it came out that he was right. And 2 days later, I found out that the CTO decided to leave the company, the co-founder, the technical co-founder, right after the fundraising round is closed. And the CEO didn't tell us. So this was a good example for me, only because of his diversity, his cultural upbringing, in which environment he grew as an entrepreneur. He was able to see that risk, to sense it, and help us to de-risk that decision.
Super insightful, thank you, especially as we have some VC funds. Maybe this is also some kind of inspiration to diversify your teams in terms of gender, cultural diversity, age, backgrounds. And one other topic that I would like to touch upon, which we also have here in our title, right, is ESG. And Doerte, here you are the absolute expert. And I would like to ask you what role we as venture capitalists should play in promoting ESG within our portfolio companies, as we also have some responsibility here.
Yeah, we are a climate tech fund, and we are also an Article 9 fund. So in our selection process, we have this ESG element, and we have to look at it even more than many other funds. And we start investing in seed round, also in Series A. And of course, one question is, for a seed company, how much should we really focus on all this ESG? And there are also many formalities and, child labor and whatnot, which is hopefully for none of us relevant. And my answer is always, at the seed stage, it's still a lot of common sense and doing good things and doing the things in the way that you would also want your friends in the company to work and all that stuff. And then probably when you start growing and hiring and all that, and that's then the point when you should start to think about it more structurally and maybe have an ESG software that helps you maybe do some checklists, maybe have some processes for hiring for and for other stuff. And I think that's relatively good guidance. So often it's actually after the Series A round or so when this gets really relevant. But what I see is that this whole ESG topic, it was historically a risk mitigation thing. Yeah, we don't want to do something if a company is not behaving correctly, because then if this comes up, it can be bad press or whatever. But I think more and more investors and people see that this is also a quality criteria. And when you speak to founders and you find that things are in order and that right from the first hiring process, the things just are made in a good way, and there was never someone who just started working for free or whatever, then this is also a very good indicator that also other things are in order, also the tech is in order and the quality processes and so on. So I think that gets more and more clear. It's not just de-risking, it's really essential. Yeah, when you see in our climate tech scene now, there's the Northvolt disaster everywhere and people died and all that stuff. Yeah, so this is fundamentally in this steep growth phase, a lot of ESG things have not been taken care of. And then at some point, it's not bearable anymore. And I think this is our role as investors also to look at this. Does this make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, very insightful. And it also boils down to not seeing it as an annoying thing to do, but seeing chances in that to also support your portfolio companies as you have more than one and give them guidance on how they could do it in a lean way and avoid negative press or anything that is related to that. Very helpful. Christian and Franzi, I would like to come back to you guys. I mean, you have implemented diversity measures. You just talked about it. What kind of challenges did you face and how did you overcome them? And maybe, Franzi, you could also talk more about your fundraising process yourself as a female founder or full female founding team. How did you cope with that? So maybe we can split it in you telling about your founder story and you about talking about how you implemented diversity initiatives within your firm and some of the challenges.
Yeah, good question. So for myself, I haven't experienced something special. I know a lot of other female founders do, and I perceive them as excellent. And I see their pitches. Might be because I used to work in consulting and I speak the language. So in general, there are biases. Every one of us has biases. Sure. And I think that's quite natural. I think it's just being aware of them and putting a form of mechanic behind it. And we have that, and I find that challenging as well. So for example, if you do salary negotiations, I see myself negotiating differently if I see someone has higher expectations. And so we just need to be aware of that and put some systems behind it. So for example, we launched a tool that assesses salary equality and really adjusting salaries. So I think that is a good example. So just being aware of biases, deal with it. And we spoke about tough market times right now, right? And to me, it's a huge opportunity for not only female founders, but also for founders having a different approach, because now we are suddenly speaking about profitability, about resilient models, and I see a lot of female founders pitching to me having very cost-efficient structures, you know, like everything that really you can see in numbers. It's just a translation into numbers, and it's a translation how you pitch it. So I would love to have, especially like everyone in this round, with the power and the money behind that, like look from a different perspective at the business model, see like at the end, returning customers, average order values. You see so many indications of very, very good business models, like give them a chance, see it from a different perspective, And then the second thing is often teams underestimate them. So I saw it myself at the beginning. My co-founder and I, we had that big vision already, but it felt too big to even communicate it. And now we not only we are very proud to communicate it, and we have that huge, right? The sky is the limit. So, and I would wish for more female founders to be bolder, to really communicate it, to jump and to just try it.
Super helpful. Thanks so much. And as we're running a bit out of time, maybe in 1-2 sentences, what would you say, Christian, were some of the challenges and how did you overcome them?
I think the biggest challenge is always like having so much stuff going on which you want to handle, needing people for that, and then hire them as quickly as possible because you want to grow, right? And I think like we faced this challenge a lot, that we said, okay, there are 2 candidates who might fit this position, but are they really the best for the company? Is it currently also, we are currently in the need of people solving these issues or solving these responsibilities, but are they long-term really fitting to the company or not? I think that's the biggest challenge you always face with growth, especially with having venture capital investors in your back. And I think there, for me, the effective strategy is always, be self-reflective, be knowing which people you want to have in your company. We did this lesson or this exercise a lot in knowing exactly which people we want to have, which values, which commitments they should fulfill, and then also make the hard decision if you say it doesn't fit completely, because although it might help you for the next 6 months, you build a company for the long term and not for the short-term goals. Although maybe some investors or other stakeholders in the company have more milestones which are short-termly, but most obviously you as a founder build your company long-term, and you should stick to those rules.
Thank you so much. Lukas is already looking at me and getting nervous, so I will finish off. Because we are such a great audience here, I just want to take the opportunity to ask all of you to really rethink the way you have been doing hiring, you have been doing investing, you have been doing introductions, and always think about, is there one person that you would not naturally think about that you should put also on that list? And if we all make that effort genuinely, we can make sure that the diversity of the VC industry is just like this one on stage. Thank you so much.